Hello everyone, my name is Corinne Maxfield. I'm the Program Leader for Tourism and Events here at William Angliss Institute. Welcome to our Industry Insights into the Events Industry session for today. Really appreciate all the panellists being involved. I'll just introduce each of you. Firstly, to my right, we have Joe McGrath, the Manager, Racing Engagements and Cup Tour for the Victorian Racing Club. Liliana Sanelli, Founder and CEO of Perfect Events. Daniele James, Academic and Government Consultant in Events Sustainability. And Daniele James, Angliss Alumni and Event Coordinator with Perfect Events. So thank you so much for joining us all today for our session. So we'll pose a range of questions for us to all to explore and discuss today. First question, how did you get into the events industry? Who'd like to start? Would you like to start, Joe?
Well, I think a bit through default, or maybe not so much good management, but just how it sort of evolved. I was in publishing prior to my role of getting involved in the Lexus Melbourne Cup Tour, and I was actually director of Racing Museum at Caulfield. Grown up in horse racing and horse breeding, and basically there was an opportunity to take the Melbourne Cup, famous sporting trophy in this country, out to communities and across the land, and it was pretty much an immediate success, and sort of opened up our eyes as to what this might be as a community engagement piece, and it grew from there. And strangely enough, I've managed it for 18 years since. I do another role for the club as their ambassador at large. So I do a lot of, talking on the road and so forth. And I've been involved in, the promotion around the Melbourne Cup Carnival and other activities along the way. But certainly, it's sort of just the way circumstances evolved, but it's a great industry to work in, certainly racing, and we run the Melbourne Cup Carnival, which has about 380,000 people over an 8-day period, and hopefully we'll be doing that again this year.
So exciting to be involved in like a national icon.
Absolutely,
yeah, that's
it is.
amazing.
I think one thing you do realise is you get a lot of relief from when it's delivered. There's a very high expectation around certain events, certainly in Melbourne. There's quality events in this major city, and there's a euphoric moment when you achieve what you've set out to achieve, but it's also a sense of relief.
Yes, absolutely understandable. Thank you very much for that.
It always is, isn't it? Once that event's done, it's like there's always a point in the night or at the event, and we go, all right, we can have champagne now, it's done.
But I've come to realise that the bar never gets lowered.
Yeah, no, it only goes higher.
It only goes up. So, it's good fun.
So that's your experience? The bar keeps going, Liliana?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We kind of giggle at our office because, as you guys know, doing events, you're always as good as the last event, and it's so true. So you've done an amazing event, you've produced an excellent event, and there's all these different experiences. Okay, so how are you going to top it next year? And you're like, bloody hell, I just got all these people in the room, we got all these things, what do you want next? But anyway, you asked us how we got into events. So like Joe just said, I fell into events. I was working at AMP here in the city actually, in just before the year 2000, and they had adopted the Leukemia Foundation from their charity, like they had just started a foundation. And the Leukemia Foundation was based out of Queensland. And so between the foundation and Leukemia Foundation, they said they wanted to start opening up in every state, and philanthropy and fundraising was completely different 25 years ago. So they needed help from a corporate to start expanding it, and AMP said to them that they could give them office space for free in all the states, because that's when they were absolutely huge. And then they said, we would love you to use our employees to get them empowered and get them involved. Long story short, basically at that stage I was like, oh, what do I want to do with my life? I'd just come back from overseas, I want a scholarship to study, and I was like, trying to work out what I wanted to do. And they were talking about Leukemia Foundation running a program. Ended up volunteering. The then CEO was a 27-year-old spunk, and I was like, oh, this is not bad. Right, I've got a bit of volunteering time. And plus, and they needed help organising things, and all my life I've just organised. I'm the natural organiser. And so I started the AMP volunteer program, literally started it for the Leukemia Foundation. I ended up taking annual leave, and I started the Show for a Cure for them here in Victoria and Tasmania.
Excellent.
And then I convinced Damien to finally give me a job. So I moved from one side of the office block to their side of the office. But while I was doing that, I met a mentor who's still my mentor, Kathy Comfrey, who worked for Opera Australia. And she was telling me at that time that she would organise events for donors and for the opera and parties, and I would say to her, what do you mean? You do this for a living and you get paid for it? And she's gorgeous, and she's like, yes, darling, we do this and we do that. And I was like, really? So then the Leukemia Foundation asked her to put on a big donor function, and at that time, before I could convince Damien, he was Damien Bound then, he's Damien de Boom, he works now with the head of events, government, convince him to get onto the Leukemia Foundation. I said, I'll take time off. I volunteered all my time and basically shadowed Kathy because there was no events education like there is now, and just to get those little learnings or techniques of how she was able to finesse the donor or work on an event. And I remember it clearly. We had all the AMP people, we made a lot of money, and from that I can clearly say that I said, oh, events is a job, and a lot of people then didn't think it was a career. It's becoming a career now, but all of us, I would say, fell into it because it wasn't that natural job that you would aspire to do. And there's not, whereas now we're so lucky the young generation has this option. And,
absolutely. And some 3 key takeaways for me in there, which we always tell our students, is you had the mentoring, you've got the volunteering and the networking, all sort of key things about the industry that make it work. So.
And we still do that today with my, the reason we found this beautiful Danielle, who you'll get to know a bit more, is I pretty much make all my staff volunteer for me or intern, so I can say, yeah, I think you're a good fit. Or, and I volunteered all the time, and mentoring a network, I think if we don't do that, we wouldn't be, and I say this for all of us, be able to do our job.
Absolutely.
Especially in events. The amount of people you go, can you help me just on this today?
Absolutely.
Because tomorrow.
That's great. Thank you very much. Daniel?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of words there that stick out, or a few of them. Falling into it and being an organiser. And I've always been a natural organiser and interested in organising things. But in my story, I was on community radio in the Latrobe Valley for a number of years. And we were trying to think of ways. Yeah, thank you. We were looking at ways to do a major fundraiser for community radio station, because it's always a challenge to raise money. And so I came up with an idea where we'd get local bands to record original songs in live venues, and then we would put together that music into a tape in those days. It was a while ago. A cassette, and then we would sell that and raise money, but we'd also raise money from the individual gigs. So we ended up organising, I organised 3 separate venues with 3 different bands, and then we had the release of the tape at the biggest venue in Latrobe Valley at that time. And that was sold out. It was all sold out. It was just huge. It was the Dome. It was called the Dome. The Astrodome, that was in Traralgon. No longer exists. But it was, I just found that I got a real thrill from helping people, getting things organised, the challenges. Like, there's a lot of things, and this is where the organising thing is really important, because attention to detail, that's my experience, and communication. I mean, a key takeaway from today should be for the students communication. Being able to communicate to a broad range of people and listen to what people want, because quite often it can be the case that you think you know what people want, but they don't realise that what you've done is what you thought they wanted. So knowing exactly what your client wants and what the expectations are is really important. So, but I went on from there to manage bands at gigs and do all that sort of thing. And then when I got to university, I got involved with the student union and then eventually ran the student union. We run hundreds of events throughout the academic year, ranging from meetings to sports events to every Wednesday night having bands and all sorts of things. So, yeah, an amazing array of things, but always organise, communicate, attention to detail.
Yep. Pretty much. It's your keyword for 2020.
I always have a keyword every year, a theme, and it happened to be communication this year, right? Yeah. So I have it on a board in the office and at home, because we even do it with the kids, and I didn't realise how important that word is even more so now.
Well, you just look at it across the world, you know, with world leaders. Some of them like to get on Twitter and ping out things, and that can start a world war, you know, like through poor communication, or it can send the share market going through the roof. And that could be 15 words. So it's sort of, it is, I agree with you. I think that communication is, you know, if you're sitting there running an event and you think, oh, my guest speaker, Dan's got to be doing that, and I don't know whether you pick up the phone and you ring. You say, are you coming? Are you there? I just want to double check. You know, yep, all good, no problem. Or just a text the night before, you know, just to double, you know, that sort of thing. You end up doing a lot of...
Are our expectations in alignment, you know, like the client and... But that's better.
Better than not communicating.
But
well, you have to, because unfortunately, if you don't, you learn the hard way. I mean, that's probably the thing that comes out of this sort of game too, is that you think something doesn't work, and everyone loves to talk about when it does work, but when it doesn't work, and you sit and analyse it, you go, well, I didn't ring that person. I didn't actually, you know, to your point, communication, it just so important.
It's the key, really, isn't it? Communication. Yeah. Thank you for that. So Danielle, what's your journey into events?
So mine's obviously a bit different to you guys. As you said, it didn't fall into my lap. I aspired to be something like this. So when I pretty much turned 18, I started at a venue and just cater waiting, and I really loved it. I pretty much signed up to William Angliss straight away, and then started full-time work in a styling company because all these opportunities were pretty much there, and then was there for a couple years, and now still loving it in events, and just, you know, it's gone from one extreme to another. So from styling to producing to, it's kind of, there's no one thing that's the same. And the things that teachers bagged on about, you know, networking and this and that, it's true, and it's not bagging on. We had a teacher recently tell us, you know, the students think we're bagging on about this and that, and it's just, it's all true. What they say is true, and I think I've learned that an easy way. I've had it, not to say I haven't worked hard, I've worked really hard, and it's been such a huge learning for me to be with someone like Lil and be with you guys here today, to know that there's so many opportunities out there for me, and everyone coming into events industry, and it's going to be a different one, but it is exciting, you know. It's not going to...
What makes it exciting for you?
The challenge. I think the challenge is one of the most exciting things, and knowing that you haven't done something before and you're going to achieve that, and hoping to achieve that, and what are you going to do? What am I going to challenge myself? Who am I going to talk to? What things am I going to create to get there? I think, you know, Perfect Events has allowed us to create a lot of new things, and really kind of change normal things and creating them into bigger, and really creating what that client wants and envisioning for that event. We can pretty much develop it and create it from something new. So that's...
And how do you do that? How do you create those unforgettable experiences for your clients? That's a question to everybody, but you're on a roll now, so keep going.
It's probably those late nights that we're sitting there and kind of thinking of concepts, and this random idea pops into your head, and then someone else hits it, and then someone else has another idea, and all those ideas just mesh into one and make it an awesome thing that we want to create. You know, recently, I think Lil came up with a vision. We did a launch for the District Docklands, and Lil had this vision of creating a immersory kind of green wall that people can have feel, touch, taste, all your senses, and we were kind of like, yeah, cool, how do we create that? But, you know, we sat down, had to think about it, and we created this awesome, like, amazing 6 metre long wall, and it kind of came to life. And
it wasn't your traditional media wall.
No,
so
it
made
was
it so that they had to because it was around the new food district, so they had to touch the 5 senses and experience that. So the publicity around that was fantastic, and the visual concept. And you know, when you sell the concept, sometimes you're like, now I need to make it. I had to really make it, and it worked. So and it was incredible. Danny who built it. The first guy couldn't build it, and then we were stuffed, and then we had to find someone else, and then you know, lucky no COVID. Then touching something, changing something. You know, like all the little things. So it's the little things. Yeah, it's the little things, and it's the small bits and the small ideas everyone has combined that makes an amazing idea.
It's a lot of collaboration.
Yes.
But I think you touched on the word, you know, creative, creative thoughts. I mean, it's a lot of people in marketing, whether or not they're in visual design or graphic or, you know, whatever it is. There's in events, some people might see it as, you know, got to be like that. But there's actually, you bring your concepts to the table, and you know, we're going to have this thing on top of the roof, and it's going to be all this, and someone's going to drop down on a parachute or something. That's the innovation, that's the creativity, and that you're allowed to bring that into the events realm, which makes it very satisfying as well for anyone who is creatively minded.
I mean, that's why it's good to volunteer before you hire, because like we have so many different people in our job that it's some are creative, some are really good at planning, so it kind of makes it, the team makes it, having those different people best at different aspects of it. Yeah, that's a good point. Having a team that has speciality, each person knows what they're doing and they work well together. One of the more interesting aspects of events, in my experience, has been workshopping ideas, you know, sitting around saying, what are we going to do, how are we going to do it, like what you guys were talking about, and then seeing it succeed. Most of the time, it's good. But in terms of what are some of the fundamentals about events, actually my grandmother gave me the best advice for events, and that was to do with parties. She said, it's got to be music, food and booze. And she's like, if you've got those 3 things right, then everybody's happy. And funnily enough, she was completely correct. So it's about when you're organising an event, whichever the event is, identify the key things that need to be done or to appeal to the client or the group that you're working with. And if you get those things right, the fundamentals, then it works itself, doesn't it? It generates its own energy sort of thing. Events.
Our customers are ever more demanding though. Everybody wants something new, something different.
Well, true. You know? I think that on that point, I mean, you know, you identify the elements of the party, but no one likes going back to the same boring
that's
part.
True.
Like if it's same old and there's no innovation, there's nothing, and it's like we're just doing the same thing.
Yes.
Well, and I think this is why the next generation, you have the best opportunity more so than us. This is where hybrid events are being born. You are more digitally savvy than any of us on this. So if you don't use this opportunity now to upskill yourself, talk to people, mentor yourself, look at what's going on and how can you take what is going on now and upskill it, you're mad. You are losing an opportunity. None of us had that. None of us. We're learning, we're creating, we're doing things. But you now have the opportunity of a brand new generation. We lived through the mixed cassettes, a CD, a USB. You don't know any of that. You know, this is now the future. You are the future. So we have to learn from you, but you have to learn from us because we're legends and we know what we've learned and we can only share that knowledge, but you need to teach us around what's next. And hybrid events is really, really big now. You talk to any of our clients, and it's like, we want the live event because no one will ever take away the live event experience, but what else can we add now?
And with all those exciting elements, Daniel, how do you include the sustainability aspect? What are the challenges there?
And it's something that we talk to our students about. One of the things that people tend to overlook or not realise is that 2 people in a meeting in an office constitutes an event because you're meeting, right, and you're consuming things. So you go in there and you might have a takeaway cup, a plastic plate, plastic knife and fork, okay? And you may have other things that are unsustainable, so to speak. But if you think about it in that context, so an event is anything from 2 people meeting together to the Olympics every 4 years. So when you think about it in that context, around the world, events are consuming lots and lots of things, right? Tons and tons, generating so much waste and using so much energy that it's almost unimaginable. So the role of sustainability in events is incredibly important, not just for the people involved ultimately, but for the environment, for the planet, when you think about it on a world scale. So in terms of sustainability, it's from having a gig and sourcing, and this is really incredibly important, and you guys will learn about this, especially coming into the industry now. That is about the supply chain. Getting the supply chain so that your people, your suppliers, I don't know if it happens in the racing industry where you go, okay, we want the plate that can be biodegradable, it has to be bamboo knives and forks, has to be reusable straws or whatever.
Certainly it's a big part of our charter, and sustainability used to be low on the order. And it's very high up in terms of the build out at Flemington as an event. To not have material that you're building, the build, it needs to be biodegradable, recyclable, reusable. As opposed to being smashed down and put into landfill. But we have other things at Flemington. We use a lot of water on a track. For we've now got bores in there and desalination sort of units out at the track, and that's become a big issue as well, let alone the food that doesn't get eaten, and being able to sort of team up with places like Second Bite,
Oz Harvest,
and to repurpose that food to people who are more needy. So all of those things are very important, and when I got into racing, they weren't as important, same as animal welfare wasn't as important. Well, those two are now very important, and we're judged accordingly from the general public. And if you don't have policies in place that they accept and warm to, they won't come to your event. So Joe's
right, it's become much more important. And I think what we'll find in the event industry is that the new graduates that come through, especially from places like William Angliss, are going to be choosing to work for companies that demonstrate that they have sustainability practices and that they actually live by them and implement them. So I think it's something that's only going to grow into the future and become more important to people.
I think it's really important for outdoor events, even more so than indoor. Like, you see that difference in when you're talking to your clients. Somehow the outdoor events has more that sustainability scheme versus the indoor, and it's interesting even with risk management when we're talking about safety and risk. How does the sustainability aspects of an event work with risk? And it's a really interesting conversation at times.
And PR comes into it so much as well, like making sure that the PR point of view now is a risk because of how you're going through sustainability and what you're doing or what you're practicing, and making sure that you are doing it and what
you don't want to be responsible for the oil spill.
Like, we did a conference once for land care, right? So what did you think? They wanted the whole event done out of sustainable products and plant-based food. So you had to work with all your suppliers from sourcing, the supply chain in, and even to the point that in the programs they knew where everything was sourced. So it's another element in the precise detail of taking it to another level. And we've become really good in Melbourne. Like, our supply chains are fantastic, because years and years ago, when it really, phases happen, like now COVID's the next hangover of a pandemic. But what happened then around sustainability now is it's now the given. What are you doing? Which is really important for you to teach it, which I loved that you do that here, because I don't think a lot of the other universities or TAFEs focus on it as much as you do. So I think it's a great benefit.
And I think just on the, for us, our venue, it's 365 days a year, but, we only race 25 times a year on that as a race meeting. But we have a lot of events and weddings and things like that. Now, if you don't have a sustainability policy and there's a young couple wanting to get married and use your venue, and they don't agree with, or you've got no policy around it, they'll say, we're going somewhere else.
We did an Al Gore event last year.
Last year.
Al Gore, and it was
Sydney.
in June, Sydney. The venue we thought we had chosen that would be appropriate, we ended up doing a site inspection, and thank God we did, because what they had told us versus their sustainability and what we saw was Oh my God, I
Yeah.
spent the whole day from going, oh, this is a great day in Sydney, I'll do this, I'll do that, forget it. I was like, it was crazy. And to the point of the checks before he entered, what we had to do, the way it was, the people in the room. So it's
I think even before that, we kind of went through an interview process with the venue and with the client about our, like as a business, our sustainability.
Yeah, right.
As a company.
Yes, and we had to fill out all these documentation and like, it's huge.
Yeah, there's certification programs for sustainability that a lot of organisations, things like local government, sporting bodies, sign up to. Yeah.
So we've seen a lot about how sustainability has changed things. We've got COVID, things are about to start opening up again. How's that going to change racing?
Well, it's going to change racing a lot. I mean, we've been very fortunate throughout the whole COVID deal that, you know, we have been able to race, but with no crowds. The horses are not affected, but it's the people. We are going through case scenarios of running the major event with people and without. And you sort of, it's like budgeting, like anything, projecting, you know, having those scenarios in place so that, you know, from a cost point of view and income point of view, you have an idea of what's going to happen. We are hopeful that, you know, things continue to open up in Melbourne. I think it changes from one week to the next. You can see the confidence levels have changed dramatically since Easter to now, and I would suggest that, you know, we just don't want to push it too hard. I mean, like, it's like, you know, the capacity of what we can do, 100,000 people here and 100,000 people MCG, Flemington, wherever else. Let's don't get too greedy. Let's just go in and let's just get through this year, and then we can open up to next year. And, you know, because we just have to have one major thing that goes wrong.
Yes.
And we could all be back to square one.
Have a reasoned approach, yes.
So that's what I think.
And what do you think for your organisation? How will COVID impact you once things start?
Yeah, look, we automatically, and all of us saw once Friday the 13th of March hit here in Victoria and Grand Prix got cancelled and the Food and Wine Festival and Fashion Festival and everything. We sat in our office, the whole team, went into the boardroom, watched the TV, and we just sat there like, no, this is it. Because once that was cancelled, we knew as an industry, that's it. That's, you know, we were really one of the first to be affected. And everyone's affected in every single way. It's amazing. But I really think it's challenging all of us to literally think differently. This year, you know, is what we're calling Reset 2020. It's like, just you're there. I kept on saying 2020 was about, you know, remember in the year 2000, you're too young, where everyone was worried about Y2K, that the computers were going to shut down, the world was going to shut down, but everyone kept on going.
Biggest non-event of all time.
Yeah, right. And I kind of said 2020 is about us, and I kept on saying to the clients, you need to be on the platform and people need to see what you're doing, you know, and really make sure that you're diversifying and getting out there. Little did I know that that's what I meant, like we're changing everything, you know, like resetting our boundaries. So a lot of our clients are talking about hybrid events. We had 60 to 70 events already booked in around Australia, completely got cancelled. So you can imagine for a business owner, I went from there to there. It was a real struggle.
So what can you build in to make the customers feel comfortable again to come back, do you think?
I think it has been time, and I really believe COVID, and we're all going through it at the same time. It's like Christmas, everyone has a break, so I'm not going to get 300 emails, we can have a break. This is the time where everyone can just be more heart-centred and community and say, okay, so how do we support each other? And that's one thing that's definitely come out of the events and music industry, and we're really trying to support each other. And with clients, some clients are unable to see what's next because it's budget and it's finances, and that's the reality of life. We all run a business, we all need money to turn over things, and the government's been fantastic here in helping us with JobKeeper. But with the clients we're working with at the moment, we've been completely innovative. So we've become an event marketing agency more so than event producing. We've launched ourselves, we've created live virtual dinners called Cravings. We've partnered with Curtis Stone Events, who launched here late last year, wanted to change the market. That hasn't worked out the way they needed, but we've partnered with them, created an exclusive menu. So now we do virtual dinners where people eat exclusive dinners in different homes, and we've done homes from 19, 20 people, from Apollo Bay to Mount Martha to, you can have more homes, to them sharing what's called a cravings conversation, a live webinar with you're sharing a meal, doing a virtual awards.
It's keeping that familiarity, having some music
Present.
there, having cuisine, having fine dining, having that connection, what we kind of call it. So I think that's important, keeping that familiar aspect to it as
Definitely.
well. Yeah.
I might just move on to the last question of the day now. What would be your best piece of advice for someone who aspires to break into the events industry? Daniel, would you like to answer?
That's reasonably straightforward. Give it a go.
Yeah.
Like, if you're interested, even if you're half interested, don't doubt, you're going to doubt yourself perhaps, but part of the road to success is littered with failure, right? You've got to have a crack. And the people that succeed are the people that get up and keep going. So that's my advice. If you see something that you want to be involved in, an event of some description, as I said earlier, events are incredibly wide-ranging, then put yourself forward and say, I can do that, even if it's helping out or being on the organising group or whatever it is. Volunteering, I think that's a really good point, especially for students. Try to volunteer as much as you can at different events, and you'll find, I think Race of Victoria probably have this as well, they ask for volunteers at different times. A lot of organisations do it, and get on the internet and have a look, and during your spare time on the weekends or on holidays. The Grand Prix definitely does it. All these different mobs. Volunteer, give it a go, get involved and back yourself in, yeah.
Perfect end to our session for today. So that does conclude our session. So sincere thanks to everybody for being a part of that for today, for William Angliss and supporting us. And we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.